Howdy, this is going to be a quick video on using different masking modes within Procreate. So here I'm going to open up Procreate and I'm going to just create a new canvas just using standard screen size. And I'm going to draw an apple. So let's say here is my apple. It's a little rough apple. Let's say I do want this to have that little stem of the apple. So I'm going to go ahead and add a little stem. Perhaps I'll add a little characteristic apple leaf that every illustration of a apple has. Let's see what that looks like. So here's my apple. And let's say I'm working with the Anti-Doctors Association of America, and they're encouraging people to eat an apple a day to keep the doctor away. So this is the Anti-Doctor Association of America. They'd like me to make some changes. Turns out they do not care for a red apple. They want a golden delicious apple. Well, one way I could do this is by creating an alpha lock. And if you see, if I did an alpha lock over here on this little layers palette, it now shows a kind of a gray and white checkerboard behind the apple. But now what I can do is I can switch over to a yellow. And this is kind of cool. It will only let me draw where I've drawn before. So it's kind of becoming a golden delicious apple. You can do more changes to it. And let's say they just love this apple. However, not all their members like golden delicious apples. They all don't like doctors, but some don't like golden delicious apples also. Well, here's the deal. Thankfully this is still up, so I could two-finger back up. So I'm undoing. In fact, I'll get rid of the ADAA scrawl that I had over there. There we go. So now we're back to where we started from. But what I'm going to do is, rather than having that issue where I totally painted over my existing apple, instead of doing an alpha lock, what I'm going to do is take that back. So instead of doing an alpha lock, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new layer, and I'm going to select clipping mask. Now this works similar to what we did before with the alpha lock, but what it says is the stuff I have here on layer 2, it's only going to apply to where I've drawn in layer 1. So again, I can do my quick turning this into a Golden Delicious. And I can have plenty of, I can do all this work. So now I have my Golden Delicious. But if you look at this little icon here, you see I didn't have to worry about trying to stay within the lines. It's because this layer 2 is dependent, since it's a clipping mask, on layer 1. In the layers palette, it also kind of gives you a hint of that dependency. It adds a little tiny arrow that points down, and it also indents layer 2. Now, some folks may not like the fact that this Golden Delicious, well, let's say that they like a apple with a lot more, let's say like a Roma apple, or one that has a lot more color variation. So what I could do, I'm just going to create another layer and make that a clipping mask also. And I'm just going to turn off layer 2. So this is going to be our Roma apple. And they just kind of have a little more of a streakiness to them. So you kind of get the best of both worlds. And let's say that we'll mess with this a little bit more. Grab that. So we're ending up with this streaky apple. And let's say, folks, yeah, the Anti-Doctors Association of America kind of likes this, but there are some people who really do not like that little leaf up there. So let's say we could erase it. So I could go back to my original layer. And what I could do is go in here and erase that leaf. It's like, well, okay, we lost the leaf. However, like any good board of directors, they all have different ideas of what should and shouldn't be in there. Some of them like the leaf, so I'm going to put it back. But what I can do, I can go back to my apple, and I'm going to add a mask onto that. So what I can do is mask out the stuff I don't want to show. So in this case, I'm going to take my brush, this could be any brush, and I'm going to take the black paint, and where I paint black on that mask layer, what it will do is it will hide that information. So here's my layer mask, which is approximately the shape of what that leaf used to be. So we now know that this is hiding the leaf down there. So I can turn this little layer off. I could also use this layer. Let's say later they're going to be doing a Halloween promotion. So if need be, I could do a jack-o'-lantern apple. With a big toothy grin. Of course, to do that, I have to change the background color, so we can do a black background. So there's my jack-o'-apple. And the thing is, I can also then easily go in here with a white brush and either use it to clean up these lines. So I could go in here with white. And I'll switch over to a more solid brush. So I'm going to go under a painting. One of my favorite brushes, the round brush. So I could add back in. Let's add back in an eyeball. For those who are really good at carving pumpkins. And if I need to straighten out any of these lines, I can switch back to black. And let's say I want these to be sharper up here. Give the sharper eye points. Make that nose nice and sharp. Clean up the mouth. They may be anti-doctors, but they're pro-dentist. So now I have my jack-o'-apple, kind of nice and sharp. However, at another point, if somebody says, you know, we are done with Halloween, we need to do our ad back to the normal apple, I can simply come in here, either turn that off, which would also bring back the leaf, or I could get some white paint and paint on this layer mask layer. I could do this in stages. I can get rid of the eyes. So now the eyes are missing from the layer mask. Or I could just finish this up. I'm going to take back all the mouth. And let's also just go ahead and put a neutral color in there for the background. So by using this layer mask, it gives me some flexibility. I can also turn the layer mask completely on or off. So here I have, let me just change the background color. Here I am back to having my leaf. If I don't like the streaky color, I can get rid of the streaks. I can put back in the Golden Delicious layer. So using a layer mask, I can control and erase stuff. I can also use a clipping mask to make sure a layer fits within the shape of another layer. You could also think of this as using the layer before as a cookie cutter. So you can fill in the cookie color, cut cookie layer as much as possible, but you can't go outside that. And if you just want to do something simple, you can still turn on alpha lock and perhaps add some highlighting to this apple on this very layer itself. So let me do that. And I will go back to my, let's choose another brush. Wild light. So as you see, this gives us lots of flexibility. You get rid of the leaf by turning the layer mask on and off. We can add additional color schemes to it and stay nice and flexible. So that's a quick introduction to using Alpha Lock to paint on the same layer, a layer mask to say what can and cannot be seen, and using clipping masks to add additional color to a layer or to a shape in a controlled and separated way. Take care. Bye-bye.